Hey guys, this is Megan, and this is my week 4 discussion and question for COMM4513. The first thing I'm going to talk about is my question. And my question originates out of Globalization in American Pop Culture by Lane Crothers. I am in chapter 5, and on page 190, Crothers writes that UNESCO found that 50% of the world's languages were in danger of extinction and that 90% had no internet presence. Only 5 countries monopolized the world's culture industries, while 88 others had never had their own domestic film production facilities. So, my question is, with statistics like that are probably aged statistics as well, how do we take either personal or global responsibility for preserving cultures that have in fact never had a very solid base of like audio-visual culture to preserve. Now, I understand the importance of preserving other countries' cultures, and I'm an advocate for that, and I understand how American pop culture audiovisual artifacts can negatively impact other countries' cultures. But how can we address the problem of these countries that don't play in that monopoly to even have a seat at the table of discussion if they themselves have no products to promote their own culture? That's sort of a confusing question, I'm sorry, but I just feel like it's a question worth asking and analyzing. And then my statement, even though I lost my, oh no, I didn't. Here. From Persuasion and Power by James Farwell. This kind of goes with the discussion question that I wrote, but I think it's a really important thing to talk about and to state, I guess. In chapter 16, on page 208 and 209, Farwell is discussing the Rwandan genocide and the way that radio played into that issue. And he quotes the director of the U.S. Information Agency, Joseph Duffy, as saying that they had protested and they wanted to be consistent. My feeling was that RTLM's hate broadcasting was costing lives. Stopping it was a priority. Unfortunately, the bureaucracy proved intransigent and prevailed. That's on page 209. And so my statement about that has kind of to do with freedom of speech and hate speech, and if radio and television can be weaponized, like the instances that Farwell shares with us, especially the radio version of that with the Rwandan genocide, I think that it's important for us to figure out how we're going to approach hate speech and where we're going to be drawing the lines of that. And like I mentioned in my written discussion question with the free speech zones that Senate Bill 361 allow on Oklahoma campuses, this is not a new concept that Oklahoma came up with. This is legislation that we see in other states as well recently. I applaud free speech, and in the House Rules Committee that I sat in on and listened to Representative LePac's explanation of his free speech zones bill, honestly, I didn't like the rhetoric, and I felt like even though he insisted that anything that's illegal is still illegal, he was also really adamant that people should be able to say whatever they want to say, even if it offends someone else. And I kind of felt like you're opening up a pool of a cesspool, um, by telling people that they can push the line of, what's acceptable. That if a majority of people find that speech offensive, or even opens the door to hate speech, that person is still entitled to promote and share those ideas. I don't want to be against sharing ideas, and I think that a lot of times we need instances where something makes us uncomfortable in order to make us really think about something and how we should feel about it. But the nature of the representative's language, to me, seemed to, in effect, shield people that I feel like are trying to open the door to allowing hate speech to be a freedom of speech. And he, in fact, said, the answer to abhorrent speech isn't less freedom, it's more freedom of speech. And I don't necessarily, agree with him on that. And so I think that particular chapter sort of roused just what's going on for me personally in my internship, having been listening to that rhetoric about speech and thinking about how this relates to the media, and how the media itself often weaponizes speech that we come up with, because they thrive on crime, they thrive on tragedy, they thrive on conflict. And so I just think it's important for us to continue that discussion and to not simply look away when local legislation like that is happening, and to leave it with no accountability. So that's my piece on that. And thanks for listening to my week 4 ideas, and I will see you soon.